So good morning from sunny Vancouver. My name is Ed Conway. I'm the director of the Center for Blood Research at the University of British Columbia. It's my pleasure to welcome you to this 18th annual Earl Davie Symposium. I'll start off with a land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that we are holding this symposium on traditional, ancestral, unceded territories of First Nations, and we are grateful that we have this opportunity to enjoy these wonderful lands. Now, so before we get started, I do have some sad news to relay. Dr. Dana Devine, a longtime friend, colleague, and founding member of the Center for Blood Research, passed away 2 days ago. Dana received her PhD in immunology at Duke University in the lab of renowned scientist Wendell Ross. Immediately after, she joined UBC in the Department of Biochemistry, rising through the ranks to full professor. Along the way, however, she also joined the newly created Canadian Blood Services, taking on many leadership roles, ultimately as chief scientist. In the late 1990s, she, in collaboration with a few other astute and visionary UBC scientists, saw an opportunity to create a multidisciplinary Center for Blood Research at UBC, an entirely novel concept at that time. And so, following a gargantuan effort to raise tens of millions of dollars, the CBR was born. And we are really here today due to the efforts of Dana. Although she grew up in Massachusetts and loved to travel, BC was really her home. She loved her island getaway, sharing that with Don Brooks, her longtime colleague and partner. And she loved her research team, many of whom are here today, and all those students who populated her lab over the years. That activity in the corner of the Center for Blood Research will never be the same without her and her animated team. We will miss her. So welcome to Vancouver. This is we keep this. This is it. This is it like forever pretty well, it seems like. And in spite of that, over the last 8 days, we've had a sort of an influx of emails and letters to the Government of Canada and to various universities across the country inquiring about citizenship. And we had a similar influx 8 years ago. Now, I don't want to be political. There's no vested interest here. But if you are interested in staying longer than the symposium, I'm going to give you just a couple of hints on how to go about that. This is the beaver. This is the emblem of Canada from the earliest days when it was the explorers landed on the shores. And that's the Canadian flag, in case you didn't recognize it, that little leaf there. And the test to gain citizenship is really very straightforward. You just have to learn the parts of the RCMP outfit, from the hat band down to the spurs and the spur tabs at the bottom here. And it's pretty straightforward. A 50% pass is sufficient, and then you've got it. So if you go on the government website, you can get more information. Okay, now on to some science. First, I need to thank the sponsors, the Naaman Vickers Endowment Fund, who funded a lot of the students and trainees who've come in from elsewhere. Sobi, Alexion AstraZeneca, Grifols, I know some of you are here, the representatives, you can wave your arms. Novo Nordisk, who's the longest standing donor for this symposium, Pfizer, the Canadian Blood Services, of course, and Stego. So we thank you. We couldn't do this without your help. But equally important are Mira and Caitlin, who are really instrumental in making this thing happen, and we can all thank them. Please do thank them in person, otherwise you won't get reimbursed. You can follow activities on the symposium at these various sites. You'll see this occasionally elsewhere. So this is, the CBR was created in 2002, and the founding director was Ross McGilvery, who's standing there with the tag on his lapel, as Ross standing with Earl. And he was a postdoc in Earl's lab early on, and along with others, including Hélène Côté. I'm not sure if Hélène's here yet. And he really created this symposium and sort of kicked it off, which has grown immensely. And Earl used to come every year until he passed away. Earl was born in Eatonville, this little community near Mount Rainier. And then he did his undergraduate degree at the University of Washington. And then he continued on to do his PhD with Hans Neurath, who encouraged him to investigate the mechanism by which trypsin became an enzyme. And so was born the concept of limited proteolysis, which is really the basis of coagulation and other proteolytic pathways. He did a short postdoc in Boston and then ended up at Case Western University and worked, this was a famous collaboration with Oscar Ratnoff, where they identified the Higman factor and then recognized that there was a proteolytic pathway that underlined the process of coagulation. And then Earl then took that another step when he moved back to the University of Washington in Seattle, and he and his teams of postdocs and students and colleagues proceeded to purify, clone, characterize the function of many of the coagulation and fibrinolytic enzymes that you see here, and obviously has had a gigantic impact. And this these activities in the lab extended to lots of parties. It was apparently an amazing environment of joy, really, in science. So a great model for everyone, and we saw that when he visited here. He then spun off a company in collaboration with Michael Smith, a Nobel laureate from UBC, and Ben Hall, called Zyban Genetics, where they established the means of synthesizing recombinant insulin and factor VII, which is really the basis for the success of Novo Nordisk, who are here as collaborators in this meeting. So Earl passed away 4 years ago. He came every year. We really miss his gentle smile and his interactions with the students and with everybody here, but we certainly are proud and happy to carry on his legacy. Now, we have a very busy program. We always have a very busy program at this meeting, and somehow we do get through. I encourage everybody, and I've encouraged you by email many times, to stay on time, please. We really do promote question and answers, so we always leave time after every talk for Q&A, and we want the trainees to get first shot, so please don't be shy. Please ask questions, and we won't stop the discussions. So, and we will have breaks along the way, and there's washrooms. You'll find them at the back there, I'm sure. Please turn off your phones, or at least the bells on your phones, and we can get started. Oh, there is an evaluation. You can fill that out now if you want, but we'll show you this later at other times.